Good Thursday evening, folks. Let's get a check on our weekend winter storm that's pending. Here's how things are coming together. I got a few thoughts on this. It's a backward type of storm for Hampton Roads. What in the world do I mean by that? Well, 9 out of 10 winter storms usually bring the higher snow totals closer to Richmond, and we see whatever's left farther to the south and east. This time around, flip it. Looks like our highest snow totals will come on in far southeastern Virginia, northeastern North Carolina. Jackpot totals somewhere in North Carolina, which is very unusual. And I'm sure a lot of folks down there are a little bit excited about that. Snow's not only the main concern here. Wind and tidal flooding as we get into Sunday, especially for the tidal flooding concern, for some major tidal flooding. However, at this time, yes, there's still some unknowns. Our track, the intensity of the storm, and the influence of some dry air that's going to try to sneak in from the north and west, I think drastically limiting snow totals as you get closer to Richmond. Here's the timeline for things. Snow likely breaking on out by midday on Saturday. Light to start from south to north, and then really picking up in intensity as we get past sunset. Overnight Saturday, we've got the snow, pretty good snowfall rates likely, especially to the south. On top of that, our storm will start to intensify or bomb out off the coast. That's going to tighten up our pressure gradient, kick up our winds, and the combination of a reduced visibility and strong wind gusts for a prolonged period of time means we may be experiencing blizzard conditions. I think most likely spots for that will be along the immediate coast, but it's certainly in the cards. By Sunday, models leaning towards an earlier exit, likely snow wrapping on up by around sunset or just thereafter from west to east. It'll remain very windy and extremely cold. Overnight, while it's snowing, we're going to see temperatures dip down into the middle teens. And with the winds howling, wind chills down to around 0 or even negative values by early in the morning hours on Sunday. Let's spend a little bit of time here on our snowfall map. Again, this is not a final draft. There will be adjustments to this, but this is our first stab at it. 4 to 8 inches here through south side, higher totals south and east. Northeast North Carolina, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe a foot of snow, maybe a few spots getting a little bit more. Big reason for that is our snowfall ratios. How much snow we get out of an amount of liquid water is going to be so much higher because it's so cold and so dry. So typically 1 inch of water equals 10 inches of snow. We're looking at a 1 to 12 or 1 to 15 ratio here, meaning we're going to get a little more bang for our buck with the amount of liquid available, if that makes sense, to the south and east. 4 to 8 here, south side, and then the dry air coming on in, I think, is going to eat away at a lot of the outermost northwestern periphery of our snow shield. So closer to Richmond, drastically lower totals than what you're going to find here at south side, a 1 to 2. Now, unless something drastically changes, we'll keep it as a minimal impact event up towards Richmond, much higher impact farther to the south you go. Then once our storm gets cranking, the winds kick up, and we'll have the snowfall rates, whatever snow's on the ground, blowing around, lowering visibilities, and we'll hit that criteria of quarter-mile visibility, 35-mile-per-hour gusts over a 3-hour period of time. There's the possibility for some blizzard conditions. These are the areas I think will be a little more likely. Still got to throw out that caveat that there are some wild cards still, the influence and how far south and east that dry air can inject itself, and the track and the intensity going forward. Now, if we do get some blizzard warnings, it doesn't happen often, but it's happened before. Last time in south side of North Carolina, up to Matthews and parts of the peninsula, back to 2018. You remember that storm? Early January in 2018, just coming off the holidays, we had a nice little blizzard to deal with. And then a little more recently in 2022, Eastern Shore was under a blizzard warning there for the reduced visibility and the gusty winds. All right, maybe you're wondering, how are the models looking? Here's a look. The NAM, GFS, and Euro, all somewhat similar. They're all onto the same theme of the dry air. And this is what I mean. Look on the NAM. We go off to Richmond. We're at 0 inches on the NAM. Again, 1 model run out of 4 for the day. So this will change. But it goes 0 to nearly a foot at Chesapeake. Dry air coming on in there, really limiting the snowfall totals. GFS shows it, but not to the extent as the NAM. Has a little bit of snow in Richmond and a little more snow in, not as much as the NAM, much less, but still snow here, meaning the dry air coming in a little farther to the south. And then the Euro's like, hey, you know what? Everybody gets some snow. Again, these will change. These are not set in stone. Adjustments will be made here, especially on our forecast map, as more data becomes available and trends become a little more clear. All right, here's a look at Futurecast. This is a different model. This is the graph, short range, higher resolution, showing the snow here breaking out in North Carolina a little early. I think this might be a little too early. North Carolina, light snow to start and then lifting to the north. Something that will be very interesting to watch here is if something called a deformation band starts to develop. And what this is basically the atmosphere getting stretched and pulled, allowing air to rapidly rise. And this really starts to enhance the snowfall rates. And this is also what usually plays into the possibility of seeing, or hearing, I should say, thundersnow. Not outside of the realm of possibility with some of these deformation zones setting on up. So there's the first instance of that. Higher snowfall rates breaking out here by lunchtime on Saturday. I think it's early, though. And then it starts to lift north, overspreading south side, northeastern North Carolina. Now, I want to preface with showing you this model is that this was a big jump from its earlier run. Same model earlier today wasn't showing the snow making it all the way up to Richmond at all. It was much, much drier. The afternoon run came in much snowier, not as much of an influence of dry air. So we'll see what the later runs show, but this is the most current, showing snow going on through south side through Saturday evening, Saturday night. And as I mentioned, the earlier exit strategy here from the models, this is an instance of that. By sunrise on Sunday, this particular model, this particular run, shows it pulling to the east and offshore. But we're left with a very cold air, and the winds and wind chills will be a problem. Let's talk winds. Starting out of the north and east, and they will start to howl as we get into Saturday night as our storm system really intensifies off the coast. Starting to see 30, 35 mile per hour gusts higher down in North Carolina, again out of the north to northeast. As we get into Saturday night, those winds get stronger. 30, 40 mile per hour winds, 50 mile per hour winds down through the Outer Banks. Notice as we hit Sunday morning, winds start to orient a little bit more out of the north to northwest, ushering in even colder air, drier air on the backside of the storm as it pulls away. Still looking by Sunday afternoon, seeing those wind gusts in the mid-30s. Those winds are going to pile up the water for high tide. We've got a full moon on Sunday, astronomically higher tides already, meaning some moderate to major tidal flooding at some of our big gauges. Sewell's Point, moderate, 5.7. Lynnhaven Inlet, 5.6 major. Minor at Yorktown. Duck Pier, Sunday morning, just ahead of sunrise, major tidal flooding projected to crest at 7.1 feet. Here's your weekend. Saturday, we're at 26. Very cold weekend ahead, and these are being conservative. I think we could even be a little bit colder than this, especially with the snow and wind developing on Saturday. Heavy at times overnight. That's when we're going to get most of our accumulations. Winds are gusting as well. Early snow on Sunday, then remaining blustery throughout the day and very, very cold, not getting out of the 20s again. Actually, we have an extreme cold watch up for Saturday night for everybody for those wind chills, 0 to 5 below. Here's your extended forecast. Weather impact alerts Saturday and Sunday. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, though. By the middle of next week, we'll get up to a balmy 40 degrees and melt away whatever snow we do see.